Last year, during Q4, brands we handled Google Ads for made roughly $19.1 million in revenue at a 5.7x ROAS, and this year, we're planning on hitting $21 million in total revenue at the same ROAS level or higher. And in this video, I'm gonna show you our exact Q4 plan and strategy to make this happen. Now, this is one of the most important videos you'll probably watch during this time period, especially if you're watching before Q4 and you want to scale to the next level with Google Ads. But before we actually dive deep into the strategy and what I plan to do, here's what I want you to understand about Q4. Q4 is all about scaling what's already working. It's about allocating the budget the right way to proven products and proven strategies. And most important of all, it's about having a smart balance and a perfect balance between cold traffic versus retargeting and branded traffic. This is I have to go over this first because so many brands, when Q4 is basically about to come or it's already here, start to forget that Q4 is about scaling profitably. It's not about trying to test more stuff. It's not about try that unique strategy or go in and try that new investment opportunity, because all this does is it takes away the main goal and the main purpose of Q4, which is essentially to make as much money as possible during these 3 to 4 months. And the reason why this is the main goal is because during this time period, historically, and this is proven by data, by the way, it's one of the easiest times to make your users convert and to make them want to purchase from your brand. But with that in mind, you also need to understand Q4 preparations don't start in September, they don't start in October, and definitely not in November and onwards. Rather, they start right now during the summer time, especially right now when I'm recording this video, which is in the middle of July. Now, this is also another thing most brands go wrong with. They start way too late or they start way too early with a bunch of random offers, and as a result, their audience becomes immune to any new offers and promos that brand has eventually during the Q4 season. So you have to be very careful with this. You don't want to do it way too early, nor do you want to wait for too long. But basically, when it comes to Q4 and my strategy is to make over $21 million for these brands which we work with, which, by the way, if you run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, you want to be part of the roster make of this $21 million or more make and scale to the very next level with Google Ads, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com, schedule a completely free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen. But Q4 preparation starts from the product feed. Essentially, during this time, during summertime, what I'm trying to already do is I'm trying to use the past year's worth of data. So since January 1st of 2025, I could even go a few months before 2025 just to see how Q4 was last month. But I'm trying to identify during this time period the key performing keywords with the highest conversion rates. The main goal here is to understand which keywords need to be then added to my backend because they're already converted at a much higher level than the other keywords, and which have the highest chance of winning for our brand. In addition, I'm trying to identify the SKUs and the variations that did the best during this time. Any good products, any good variation of product or the colors or whatever it may be. I'm trying to identify that product so come Q4, I know exactly what to focus on. And along with this, I'm trying to then expand onto the campaign types to see what is clearly outperforming versus what's not really outperforming that much and what needs to be shut off. Because during Q4, you only want to be focused on high buying intense campaign types like smart standard shopping, performance max, search, and even YouTube campaigns. And of course, for all of the brands we work with, one of the major things I tell them before Q4 is to get their inventory and stock fixed up well before in advance, because come Q4, the last problem you want to be dealing with is that you're out of stock and now you have 5,000 orders on backlog because you can't ship those products out or those orders out. And most important part of the foundational setup is, of course, conversion tracking. During this time period, what I like to do is I like to have one major primary conversion tracking event for Google Ads for the brands, but also 2 or 3 other secondary ones. And the reason why is because I want to make sure that my tracking, the primary one, is accurate, and I'm using these other 2 or 3 separate secondary ones as backups to understand whether it truly is working properly or if it's not working properly. And this is kind of the major foundational setup and that I go through all the way from June to maybe August and early September, because when September starts, that's when now we are completely shifting our focus from the foundation, because 3 to 4 months from June to September is more than enough time to ensure your foundation is properly in place and working order, because now it's all about campaign strategy starting September. What I like to do is I like to focus on the top level overviews of strategies versus the nitty-gritty details. So I'm not too focused during this time of what button I'm going to click or what exact bid or budget I'm going to set. Rather, on a broad level, I'm focused more on budget allocation, for example. My main goal during September onwards is to change up my approach. So 80% of my campaigns and the budgets allocated towards them is cold traffic acquisition, and 20% is branded and retargeting. The last thing you want to do during Q4 is to be scaling up with TikTok ads, Meta ads, and use Google ads as a supplementary secondary platform. This is one of the worst situations to be in, and to avoid this, you need to start with cold customer acquisition early. You need to be ensuring your budgets are getting allocated properly more towards cold. But from there, we then move on to high buying intent campaigns. This budget allocation then moves on to campaign allocation, where 80% of our campaigns should be high buying intents during Q4. Because again, the Q4 is not about testing. Forget all of that. You already did enough testing, hopefully, from January all the way up to September. But by this point, it should be performance max, search, standard shopping, YouTube, the main campaign types which allow your brand to truly scale to the next level. And the main goal during the early portion of September going into October is efficiency. Forget about having 10, 20, 50 different campaigns. That's not the way to scale, especially if you want to scale profitably. The right way is to now become more strict in terms of the products you allow to run within campaigns, more strict in terms of the keywords and how they're performing. So during this time, if my KPIs were basically getting a ROAS of a 2x for minimum for my products, now during Q4, I want it to be a minimum of 2.5x. So my criteria and KPIs actually increase during Q4 because it's very easy to overlook the criteria and end up scaling way too aggressively and just ranking up the revenue while the ROAS and profitability are in a decline. This is a more fairly common situation than you would think that happens during Q4. I know because my own brands used to struggle with this back in the day, where I would get a revenue of $1 million just during Q4 for my brands. But profit-wise, I couldn't really say or know where this money went because I was just spending so much on ads. But essentially, during the months leading up to Q4, the main goal is to focus on running one major strategy that's the most efficient and leading to the highest ROI, period. It's that simple. Whatever strategy seems to be working well and whatever has the highest ROAS, run with that. You don't need to find something better. You don't need to be testing because Q1 to Q3 is about testing. Q4 is all about scaling. But essentially during this time from June to September even, we're wanting to build up more authority within your niche. Doesn't matter if you sell baby diapers, doesn't matter if you sell bed sheets or luggage, whatever it may be. June to September is about building authority. So the algorithm, when they sees your brand enter the auction, it says, hey, I know this brand. This is a high quality brand that serves its customers the right way. They have a high product feed quality and they have a good quality score from their account as a whole. So let's let them win more auctions, because keep in mind, during Q4, you and your competitors, like your 50, 100 competitors, they're all running after bids, they're all running after budgets. So the last thing you want to compete on is bids and budgets during this time. Hopefully, if you prepared from beforehand, then by this point, the algorithm already knows that you're a good quality brand and you deserve more than just ranking on bids and budgets and low prices. So what essentially happens if you followed all of these things is lower CPCs and higher CTRs. Usually that's the direct indicator that you're doing something right and you're preparing the right way for Q4. But what you want to do is you want to be building higher authority for your brand right now. So come Q4, costs stay stable and ROI increases with the ad spend. Because once things stabilize and once you're entering the scaling phase in middle of September and end of September, early October, then it's all about backend optimizations. Going into Q4, the long-term way to scale from September all the way up to December end is to focus more on backend optimizations using that data coming in, because you'll now hopefully start to get a lot of quicker data coming in and you will know exactly which keywords work the best, what products are ideal, so on and so forth. You want to use that data to then make the backend stronger. The titles, the Google Merchant Center feed, the full product feed attributes, and so much more, because that's ultimately what's going to help scale your brand to the very next level during Q4 and into Q1 without really damaging the momentum. I know this because we have done exactly this from last year, from October 1st to December 31st of 2024. And then moving on basically into the new year, our brands did not really lose momentum. They continue to scale, of course, with a little bit less momentum overall. But even then, from December to March 31st, as you can can see, we were able to, on a monthly level, keep things a bit steady, and in January make about $5.7 million in total at a 6.06x ROAS, and then that eventually increased in March, so basically Q2, Q3 again. So if you run a brand doing $50,000 or more per month in revenue, you need some extra help scaling to the next level with Google Ads, go onto my website at yourmarketing.com, schedule a completely free call with me, and let's see how we can potentially work together and make that happen.